Hi,
Hey, what's up, Tom?
how are
How's it
you?
going?
Very well,
I'm
thank you,
Nate
sir.
from I'm Nate from Heroic Hollywood. I just want to say I really love the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
So when we wait, can I start going yet, or is it?
Yeah, go for it.
All right,
We're
cool.
on.
Uh, when we last saw the original Loki, he was brutally murdered by Thanos, and that Loki's character arc was pretty much complete, I would say. How does it feel to now have to play an alternate version of the character who hasn't gone through those same experiences, and how does it feel for you personally?
That's a really good question. It was almost uh, a kind of time travel for myself because I had to unstitch the evolution that Loki's progressed through the Dark World and Ragnarok and Infinity War. Go back to how he felt at the end of the first Avengers movie, and then take him off in a new direction. But what's really interesting is it's quite, I knew the audience would know more about Loki than Loki. And that's a really interesting dramatic tension in a story, is to have the audience have all the cards in a way. And Loki is the one playing catch up. Um, but the strange thing is, I have performed the entirety of that character arc. So even I'm carrying it, the memory of doing those scenes in myself. So it's, even though he hasn't been through it, I've been through it. So it's a really interesting kind of, there's a lot going on. Yeah. I wonder what's going through my, I wonder what was sort of going through the different aspects of my brain at the time of like doing that stuff in episode one without spoiling it. Yeah.
Uh, did, did you know that Loki was getting the series when he died in Infinity War? Did you have any idea that this was coming?
I did not. I did not. So the 3 days it took to do that opening scene of Infinity War, I felt very much that it was conclusive and final. I thought, this is it. This is my, this is my swan song. And everybody on set was so kind and lovely, and Josh Brolin couldn't have been sweeter, and the Russos were really respectful, and Chris was there, and Idris was there, um, and I packed my bags and went home and thought, okay, that was that. And then it was a year later that the producers at Marvel Studios called me and said, so we've had an idea. And I was absolutely delighted and then slightly confused because um, because we all know what happened, and it felt pretty intense. So I thought, I wonder how we're going to get around this, but I think we found a way. Time travel.
Okay, so what would you say Loki's main goal or his only goal is in the series? And do you think we could possibly see him stab Mobius in the back?
Well, can a tiger change its stripes is the question. Um, it's I think the motivation probably, I think he's really humbled at the beginning of the series, and he's over destabilized and realizes he's kind of slightly in over his head or out of his comfort zone. And so his motivation is a intense desire to understand. Is he feels like suddenly everyone's got more information than he has, and he needs to catch up. And I think that gives the show a really uh, fascinating momentum, a propulsive momentum. He's a man on the run, running through the avenues of time, trying to find out what's going on. And so I think his motivation is first a desire to understand. What he then does with the information he collects, you'll have to wait and see.
Well, speaking of Mobius, you and Owen Wilson have like amazing chemistry throughout the series, throughout the first two episodes that I've seen. What was it like working with him, and do you have like a favorite moment?
Oh, I mean, I just loved working with Owen. He brought all of his playfulness and intelligence to Mobius, and he was so, also what I love about Mobius is he's so detached. So all of Loki's tricks don't work on Mobius. Loki tries to be threatening and persuasive and manipulative and all these kind of things that he gets his way. And Mobius is like, okay, I see the move you're making on the chessboard. So I thought you might do that. So he kind of outmaneuvers him. Um, And Owen and I just had such a laugh, actually. I remember he was really tickled. There was a line in the first episode in that big scene between the two of us, and it reminded me of something from a Shakespeare play. And he asked me what play it was from. I think it was from Hamlet, and he said, "Have you played Hamlet?" And I said, "Actually, yes. I had a chance to play it and talked a bit about that." And then I asked him if he had played Hamlet, and he thought this was the funniest thing he'd ever heard. Basically, he thought he was surprised that I asked him this. But I also think that maybe the world, it's time for Owen Wilson's Hamlet, and I was certainly would pay to see that.
I'd sign up.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so in the series, Loki has to face his most formidable foe, an alternate version of himself, aka Lady Loki, which is pretty ironic given that the character's ego is gigantic.
Nate, I've lost you for a second.
I said in the series, Loki has to face his most formidable foe, an alternate version of himself, aka Lady Loki, which is pretty ironic given that the character has such a large ego. What did you think when you found out who he would face off with in the series? And do you think we could see the two team up?
I absolutely love the idea. I just loved it. I actually from the first day or from when I was initially cast as Loki 10 years ago, and I was doing some research into the character in the Marvel, in all the history of the Marvel comics, and there's now a good, I think, at least 60 years of publishing of Loki's different iterations through Marvel. But there's also hundreds, if not thousands, of years of Loki in the collective consciousness. He's a character who's been around a lot, and his identity is very fluid, and he contains these multitudes, and that really is the role of the trickster in any mythology. Is you're never quite sure where the boundaries are. They're very difficult to categorize, and their identities are very broad. So finally being able to explore the range of his complexity and externalize that in somebody else was just like, I thought it was so exciting. And he may have met his match, or perhaps someone who's even more. Yeah, it's just the two of them together. You'll have to wait and see, but quite something.
Well, Tom, it was great talking with you. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for some great questions.